Achievements, a feature typically used to mark completion of certain points in games or giving out to players that do certain things within the game. They're also something that 90% of AAA games have these days. I'd make a statement here about this being the case unless your game is made by Nintendo, but it seems even they're doing it now. Not this is particularly a bad thing, mind you. Progress markers are always appreciated. Having a little trophy indicator notification pop up on screen when you complete a rather difficult task can be quite a satisfying feeling. However, this isn't always the case. Every so often a video game comes along with one or two achievements that can only be described as, well, if you've seen the title of the video, you know exactly where I'm going with this. I'm defining absurd achievements as those that either ask the player to do something incredibly specific that no one in their right mind would think to try, or just straight up mock the player for either screwing up or hitting them with a backhanded compliment. I'd go into more detail here, but this list is hard enough to explain as it is. It'll get less confusing as we go, I promise. Now, let's get started. Rewarding the player for completing side quests isn't really anything new. Just check the achievement list for the Bethesda game of your choice, and a good chunk of those have something or other to do with them. I might be cheating here given how this is more about the side quest than the achievement behind it, but Borderlands is one of those games that doesn't really play by the rules. The Zombie Island Dr. Ned was, and still very much is, considered to be the best DLC for the first Borderlands game. Naturally, you're tasked with stopping a zombie outbreak caused by the evil Dr. Ned, who totally isn't Dr. Zed from the main game at all. However, we're not here to talk about that. Hidden away in one of the main areas of the DLC is a mysterious zombified version of the character TK Baha. Talk to him and he'll give you 5 side quests of increasing complexity, with the game awarding you the achievement Brains upon completing all of them. What do you have to do? Bring in brains. How do you do that? Kill zombies with headshots and collect the brains that drop. The first time you ask for 10, the second 25, then 50, then 100, then finally 250. If you've been doing the required mathematics, then you'll have come to the conclusion that in order to bag this achievement, you'll need to grab a whopping total of 435 zombie brains. Oh, if you were thinking of grabbing them all at once, don't bother. Each side quest tier will only unlock upon turning in the previous tier, and the game stops tracking the number of brains you have once you have the required amount. I suppose you do also get some pretty nice loot for beating these quests, but there's gotta be a better way to get it than this. Games awarding achievements for screwing up are nothing new. Certain games like Dead or Alive 4 strip tell you just how bad you suck at the game by giving you an achievement for a huge losing streak, or you can be like Team Fortress 2 and give the player an achievement literally called Consolation Prize. However, it takes a truly twisted mind to not just mock someone for killing the person they were supposed to protect, but to outright reward them for it. Secret Service is a pretty bog standard FPS, which naturally puts you in control of a Secret Service agent tasked with protecting the president. But sometimes fireflies can get a bit hectic and you forget to keep track of certain enemies. Maybe you'll get confused who's who when gunning down mooks. Or maybe you're a sadistic bastard who likes to see what happens when you shoot NPCs. But no matter what happens, should you shoot the president, the game decides to tell you just how bad you fucked up by awarding you with the achievement, the exact opposite of your job. Yeesh! Already know I screwed up big time, don't be overly sarcastic with me about it. Unless you're planning on shooting him in the first place, which in that case it's more like, yeah, that happened, you happy now? It's almost like one of those "you had one job" memes that seem to be all the rage on Twitter these days. Ooh, look at me using a Twitter reference. Am I cool with the kids now or something? Mocking the player for their own stupidity and curiosity is one thing, but what about when the game decides to mock you for something you had no control over? Well, for that, we'll need to delve into the world of a certain Crash Bandicoot. The N. Sane Trilogy is, in all honesty, a fantastic idea. Allows people like me to experience the fun and difficult classic Crash games. No, I'm not making a Dark Souls comparison, that's just stupid. Seems like the dev team knew this when designing the levels, with extra lives dropping in after a particularly difficult section. Oh, thanks for the help. Now I'll just take care of this. Ah, shit, there goes my one-up. Oh, come on, now you're mocking me. Sure, rub it in, why don't you? Yep, it seems the developers were well aware of the humiliating issue that is knocking away your extra lives into the abyss. Literally. So they decided to slap you with the achievement, "I meant to do that," when this inevitably happens. Honestly, it seems like the game's making fun of you, and while I am surprised the little guy had it in him, I'm more annoyed that I'm being used as a walking punchline. What? Was the insanely difficult Stormy Ascent not enough? Why'd you have to go and hurt my feelings too? Come on, Crash, I thought we were friends. So, perverted achievements. And my video is now age restricted. The idea of rewarding the player for something devious and then mocking you isn't exactly anything new. Sure, the two South Park RPGs and the Saints Row games a fair few like this, but that's what we've honestly come to expect from those series at this point. I'm more about this kind of stuff popping up when you least expect it. For example, Yakuza 0 punishes your morbid curiosity towards adult material with its achievement called Did It for the Trophy, and both Asura's Wrath and Lollipop Chainsaw are games that essentially know who their audience is and mocks them for it, thanks to their achievements View of the Valley and I Swear I Did It by Mistake. However, all of these examples are just one-time occurrences. Maybe you got bored, maybe you actually did obtain them by sheer accident, but that's not the case with this next entry. And that is Nier Automata's What Are You Doing? Remember the previously mentioned Lollipop Chainsaw example? That one's awarded to you for staring up the protagonist's skirt. This one's a similar case, except you have to do it a grand total of 10 times. Sheesh! No wonder the game decides to go with the snappy achievement names, just instead decides to call you out for violating someone's privacy. The player character 2B even goes as far as to either step out of the way of the camera or physically swat the camera away. This isn't exactly something you can do by accident either. If it's just a one-time thing, the game would probably be a bit more jokey with you. But nope! You decided to commit to this, and now your shame is on display for everyone else to see. What's the most ridiculous thing you have done for an achievement? Is it deliberately getting beefed in the face by a falling photocopier? Pressing a button for about 2,000 times? Or how about killing a ridiculous amount of enemies without dying on the hardest difficulty? Well, dear viewers, I see your examples and I raise you, Fable Anniversaries, I did this for a Chibo. So, how exactly does one get this? Well, it's quite simple, really. All you need to do is perform a headshot with a crossbow while dressed as a woman while also wearing a beard and a redhead wig. Yes, essentially this is really an experiment to see just how far people will go to get those coveted achievements, but at the same time, you look absolutely ridiculous. Then again, given the amount of comprehensive guides to getting this achievement, the amount of footage I was able to dig up, and the simple matter of checking what percentage of players actually have this one, I'd say the developers were rather successful in making people sacrifice their dignity on the pursuit of a virtual reward. Well played, Lionhead Studios. Well played indeed. Personally, I find backhanded compliments to be more insulting than, well, straight-up insults. Probably stems from my primary school days. Well done! You completed all the activities in half the time it took everyone else, but while you were doing that, little Jimmy has also managed to understand complex algebra, can now speak fluent Mandarin, and has learned to dance the can-can. Which then led to me going all out chaotic evil and forcing several teachers to have an early retirement. Yes, I was an absolute bastard as a 7-year-old, but then again, weren't we all? So, where was I? Ah, yes, backhanded compliments. I suppose I have several examples to pick from here. Call of Duty's Now Go and Get Some Sun was a very close honourable mention, but in the end I decided to go with the rather infamous Gears of War achievement simply called Seriously. This is one of the achievements I've dubbed Body Count Markers, awarded to players that rack up a certain number of kills. This one's also a multiplayer achievement, which are always a pain to unlock. How does one get Seriously? Simple. Rack up a whopping total of 10,000 kills in online matches. Keep in mind that in your average multiplayer game, you only rack up around a maximum of about 10 or 20 kills, and that's only if you get lucky. Or just be a total dick and arm yourself with a Nash shotgun. So if we use that previous average number of 10 kills per round, take our total number of kills needed to earn the achievement, divide the total by the average, and we get a whopping total of 1,000 online matches at bare minimum to earn this. How the hell? I like Gears of War, but not even I'm that dedicated to sink that much time into it. Especially now, seeing as how the only people who still play it are the die-hard fans and the pros. Props to anyone who has it though. You people have the patience of a saint and the skill level of a god. So far, we've seen a couple of achievements awarded to players who screw up, but then we have certain achievements that are awarded for failure, yes, but can only be earned by straight up trying to fail, requiring all kinds of outside-the-box thinking and sometimes counterintuitive play. So naturally we arrive at a game like Surgeon Simulator, a game where you try to brutally slaughter people by removing all their internal organs under the guise of performing life-saving surgery. That's the point of the game, right? Basically, Surgeon Simulator is one of those games that focuses more on wacky humour, making the player go crazy and laughing so hard rather than spend time with complex mechanics and lore. Naturally, there's a bunch of silly achievements thrown into the mix for players to hunt for. There's one awarded for giving the patient a scarf made from their own intestines, one for killing yourself on the bonus alien level by sucking yourself out of an airlock, even one for successfully performing the transplant but losing the patient anyway. However, the one I picked is the aptly named What Have I Done? Now, this is quite an interesting one. The only way you can earn this one by accident is if you're really, really bad at Surgeon Simulator, because it's rewarded to any player that kills the patient within 15 seconds. Now, this is harder than it sounds because that patient is a robust son of a bitch, managing to survive having multiple organs removed and being without a heart for about 3 minutes. Oh, and 15 seconds isn't that long. Better hurry up! How do you do it then? Simple, unleash that inner psycho. Grab any surgical tool and go to town, slashing, stabbing, poking, cutting, it's all fair game here. My personal favourite way? Grabbing a drill and sticking it in the poor bastard's brain! Well, at least he's not suffering anymore. Difficult achievements. Didn't really consider that many, honestly. Most of them required you to just beat a really hard mode or beat a game like, oh, I don't know, Dark Souls without dying. I mean, it can be done. After all, some sadomasochists beat it while using a Guitar Hero controller, so anything's possible at this point. Unfortunately, in order for me to consider a hard achievement as absurd, they don't just have to be fairly tricky, but be something so asininely difficult that no sane person would ever attempt it. Didn't think I'd find one in Mega Man of all places. Now, the classic Mega Man games are already fairly difficult, and the most recent entry into that series, at least at the time of its release, Mega Man 10, was no exception. It's perfectly doable with enough practice and determination to complete the entire game without dying, but what about beating the entire game without taking damage? Yep, Mega Man 10's Mr. Perfect tasks you with playing through this already challenging game without getting hit once. Beating a level or boss fight without taking damage is one thing, but a whole game? Fuck that noise! You get through the whole game and get to the end, only to take a glancing hit as you defeat the final boss, forcing you to restart the entire thing. It requires you to not just be good at Mega Man 10, but to be a complete master at it, learning every level and boss fight by heart, memorizing attack patterns, enemy placement and spawn points, constantly watching your surroundings, knowing that the tiniest screw up will send you back to the start of the whole game. Capcom, do you hate us? The Stanley Parable is something that honestly defies explanation at the best of times. Serves as a parody of a lot of things like typical gaming tropes, simulator games, and whole branching path narrative structure. Naturally, this extends to its achievement list too. There's one that you get for trying to jump called You Can't Jump, one achievement that requires you to play the game for the entire duration of a Tuesday, one that requires you to not play the game for 5 years, and one called Unachievable, whose criteria is unknown and apparently changes every time someone unlocks it. However, the one I picked is a deceptively complex, click on door 435 times. Seems like that's all you have to do, right? Wrong! After all, the Stanley Parable isn't that kind of video game. Upon clicking on said door 5 times, the game's hilariously entertaining narrator decides that such a simple task is undeserving of a reward, decides to make you work for the achievement, and proceeds to give you a long list of tasks, including clicking on other doors, clicking on a photocopier, and standing on top of another employee's desk, which is a lot harder than it sounds due to your previously mentioned lack of any sort of jumping ability. After doing all that, only then does the narrator decide that you've done enough to deserve the reward, and unlocks the achievement for you. I'm not really bothered by that. It means we get more of the narrator being, well, the narrator, and I'm perfectly fine with that. A recurring trend on this list is that all these achievements can be unlocked just by the skill, or, well, lack thereof, of a single player. Well, I suppose the Borderlands 1 does get a bit easier to bring friends along to help out, but that's only getting at most 4 people to work together. You can even do it with all 4 of them in the same room if you steal split-screen co-op, like me. But what about giving an entire server of people to work together? An entire server of people playing a competitive team-focused, objective-based shooter. That is pretty much borderline impossible. Such is the case with Team Fortress 2's most infamous achievement in recent memory, Toon Marasmus's multi-dimensional television. For a start, this achievement is basically an extended Easter egg on one of the pastime maps, a game mode that essentially combines basketball with TF2, and is a game mode that no one really plays on account of it being, well, not very good. Now, not only does this require an entire server of people to work together, but it requires them to do something incredibly specific. For a start, you have to find the bloody thing, which is in a small room hidden away on the map, Brickyard. First, find a hidden room near red spawn and attack the wall, then throw the jack into the hidden goal that appears on the blue side of the map. Next, special doors will appear in each spawn which will reveal a hidden teleporter. Go through this teleporter and arrive at a secret room containing a TV, where specific classes must stand in the semicircle in this order. Red Pyro, Blue Spy, Red Sniper, Red Medic, Blue Engineer, Red Heavy, Red Soldier, Blue Demoman, Blue Scout. Then just shoot the plug at the back of the TV, and if it's done correctly, it'll glow green and you'll get it. Did you catch all that? If so, good luck trying to not just remember an extremely tedious process, but getting other players to also remember this tedious process and then play those specific classes in order to get any sort of results. It can be easily ruined by just one player refusing to cooperate, an extra player going into the secret room when they don't need to, or just by one of the players on either red or blue deciding that killing all the players on the enemy team when they're trapped in a cramped space is more fun than working together. This is the Cyber Engineer, and while there have been easy ways to earn these achievements using bots or even entire servers dedicated to earning just one trophy, it doesn't change the fact that it requires an insane amount of commitment to obtain. At least you get a cool hat out of it.